This isn't going to be my usual content. Yesterday was September 10th, 2025, and I was in Orem, Utah, around the time that Charlie Kirk was assassinated at Utah Valley University. I wasn't on campus. I was about a 5-minute drive away, and still, though, it hits close to home. Everything got really real yesterday, and it just stirred up a lot of emotions. Um, I always try and be a positive influence with our channel here. Help others, spread encouragement, point others to Christ. Basically, love God and love your neighbor. And we do that with visiting churches with different beliefs. And we live in an age where it's just so easy to throw out one word insults, cult and Nazi and racist and things like that. And what we try and do with this channel is just go in with genuine interest, genuine curiosity, a desire to better understand others. And that can be tricky in an online space where church and religion, it is deeply convicting. I don't like to wade into the political waters very often. Politics divide. I have my own personal set of political beliefs. I try my best to put that aside when visiting different churches, to be neutral, to be open minded, to learn. And that's why we visited the churches of last October's presidential candidates to understand more and just kind of put ourselves in the shoes of the political candidates and what they may see in a religious setting. That said, over the past 10 or 12 years since I've been visiting various churches to do that, that political influence and those ideological movements, um, I, it can't be discussed without discussing that some of these churches have been influenced by that, and there has been a shift. And personally, I've been surprised just how much politics and those movements have seeped into several pews. Like I feel like it would be a disservice not to mention that because we want to be raw, honest, and authentic. And it's been a delicate balance. The past day has been hard and heavy. I've had a few people asking if everything's been okay for me since I moved out to Utah. And I haven't posted in a while just due to some personal reasons, especially just trying to develop routines out here. And kind of been kind of going through some stuff this past weekend, and then to see everything that transpired with Charlie Kirk's assassination, um, especially to be in town, just a few minutes away, it's just too close, too real. Um, I got back to my place not knowing what had happened, and um, I saw a social media post that looked like it was getting a lot of reactions. Click on the video, you see Charlie Kirk from a distance, and then you hear this gunshot, and then just the twist of the neck. It's like the chaos that resulted afterwards. I can't imagine those that were there, especially obviously for his wife, and his kids. Um, just the graphics, just too much. And I got back to my place. The rest of the day, like I was probably like you, on social media, on just glued to the TV, just catching the latest developments as things were transpiring. And the news became the wild, wild west. Like, when in the world has just happened? Like, not in my lifetime have I seen a political assassination with this much weight. So many reactions, so many unknowns, so many feelings all at once. The emotions just kept revving up. And then I look at the comments, and obviously there's that emotional and spiritual support for Charlie Kirk, his wife, and his kids. Um, and then obviously there was comments from people who didn't agree with his views, but still could um, agree violence wasn't the answer. But I think the biggest shock to me, to my dismay, was a large number of comments, of videos, of reactions, actually celebrating with glee, and just several of the comments taking aim at some of Charlie Kirk's past comments and kind of taking those out of context to justify his murder, you know? And then you'd have others shooting back with quotes like, if you want to end gun violence, you also can't celebrate gun violence. And the political divide just goes so much further on display with this never ending civil war on social media. And then, the emotions get even more riled up and more revved up. And I was sick to my stomach yesterday. I don't engage in that type of dialogue. I rather hold on to my own mental well-being. But even after that, like I had to unfriend people from social media with just some of the insensitive remarks that I was seeing, and I don't do that typically. Um, no sleep last night. All these thoughts just kind of circling in my head, and it was just bizarre to me to be in a country founded on free speech, to see the celebration of the ultimate form of permanent silence. I try and do these church visits again with genuine curiosity, genuine interest, a desire to better understand, and I just can't wrap my head around everything that happened. I think one of the biggest hurdles, and maybe this is true for you too, where you're wondering about the slippery slope of what such a reaction can snowball into, because it's giving priority to political views over humanity. It says that political ideas take more precedence, are more important than the political man. And with Charlie Kirk, like I didn't necessarily line up to his format of debate, but he definitely did something interesting by being a Daniel in the lion's den at some of these college campuses that he would debate at. And even at UVU, the lone question before the chaos was apparently about Latter-day Saints. While he respectfully disagreed as an evangelical, especially about the theology, like he praised Mormons for the missionary example to spread the gospel around the world. I think what made Charlie Kirk such a polarizing figure, such an effective debater, was his willingness to engage in a verbal shootout, not with like cheap labels like cult, racist, Nazi, everything that you hear where someone wants to have like a one-word knockout, thinking that's going to win a debate or an argument, but with the dialogue and the confrontations, though at times like it could be harsh. In a certain way, it was kind of like a throwback. Like 200 years ago, disputes were settled with pistols at dawn. Hamilton versus Burr, the Old West. Back then, society would reach for a gun when words would fail. And tragically, that's kind of what ended his life yesterday. Not this showdown of ideas, but the old, violent, not progressive, but regressive way of handling disagreements. Like, that should grieve all of us. And you can see the downward spiral of what, with the news, because the shooter hasn't been found yet. It's an active manhunt. You can't say for sure what the exact motive is right now, but the conspiracy theories are just gonna just take off. It's an inside job. Maybe he was having disagreements with Israel, Epstein files. Like, it's going to lead to even more divide the longer the manhunt may continue. Who knows as of this recording? I think the biggest question is just where do we go from here? Today is 9/11. Today, it feels like that's barely going to be mentioned today because things just feel different today. And like I'm tired. I got barely any sleep last night, just fatigued. It's hard to be optimistic right now. And like we need to unite as a country, but it's like what banner are we supposed to be uniting under? That should be Jesus Christ, you know? It should be loving God, loving others. But I feel right now that the definition of love is being like torn apart like one ply toilet paper right now because the nation, like we can't even agree what love is. As a result, it feels like like our country is going through this massive fallout for this ongoing divorce, and counseling now is just arguments. And like Charlie Kirk's organization is called Turning Point USA. It does feel strikingly appropriate that this event is kind of triggering this turning point in the country. The thing that I'm being kept reminded by is I've been on the Utah Valley University campus, UVU. I've been on campus once, and that was to go to the Roots of Knowledge mural inside. So as I was investigating the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I was doing an open house tour of the Orem, Utah temple. And my tour guide introduced me to the work of Tom Holdman. Like he has a speech impediment, is what they told me, and he communicates with some of the most breathtaking, amazing stained glass art that you can find. Like he was actually commissioned to do the windows inside the Orem, Utah temple. Well, anyway, I was told that he also had this stunning stained glass mural that was called the Roots of Knowledge inside UVU. So this is the only reason I ever came to campus was to see this. And him and a team of hundreds spent 12 years to depict this stained glass window just going throughout humanity's journey, going through our struggles, going through our creativity, going through our learning, and it's all woven together by these branches that are bookended by these ancient trees. I want to say they're like Methuselah trees. I guess that's the oldest recorded tree on the earth. So for Tom Holdman, his voice was to use his art to speak to people. And like, I had to see it for myself. I'm not kidding. I think I had to spend at least an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours studying this because there were so many little depictions of the progress of human knowledge just during recorded history throughout it. And the thing that made it so amazing was it showed like the secular and the spiritual. It showed the intellectual and the human side of things. And there's just all kinds of Easter eggs inside. And because everything was connected, the art was to show that we were all derived, we all shared the same roots. The interesting thing about it is if you visit this mural an hour or two before everything closes, it's recommended that you go there because that's when the sunlight hits the window a different way and the colors, already amazing, become even more vibrant, become even more brilliant. And I just found that window so powerful. Just the art, just to be in a way where it actually is enhanced by God's beauty, by God's light, to bring it fully to life. So with everything that happened yesterday, you know, we learn by the roots, we learn by our history, and I'm hoping that whatever happens with this, kind of like that window at UVU, that God's light can kind of shine through, go through this kind of darkness, and that we can be uplifted with hope, with connection, and with compassion. So say prayers, obviously for Joey Kirk's family and his kids. But until next time, hope you have a good one.